it's time to conclude these sessions that we've been going through to decide which is the correct partition key or how to choose a right partition key. Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, we are going to choose a partition key with all the concepts that we had discussed in the past. So choosing a partition key is very important, or rather crucial, because this is something we need to define at the time of a database or container creation. At the time of creation, and once we define it, it's not possible to change the partition key later. Are you with me? That is the very important point. You cannot change it later. So what does that mean? That simply means you gotta be wise enough to choose a right partition key, else a lot of additional work involved. So if you have chosen, if you have to choose the partition later, or if you have chosen the wrong key, so you gotta choose it, the right key later, due to some reason, then we will have to create a separate container with the new partition key and then move the data from old container to the new container, which is sometimes, of course, not very easy thing to do. A lot of mess to go through. So it's better be decide early when we are creating the database and container. So that's why the initial stage, we want to understand our application. We want to understand the future of our application. We want to understand what kind of users we are going to have, what kind of queries we are going to run against the database. And based on all those considerations, we should choose the partition key. Now, as we discussed, the first point to make sure you pick your partition key that does not result in the hotspot within your application. The concept of hot partitioning. Hence, the first point, we need to choose the property which will evenly distribute the data in logical partition. Or let me help you here by stating you should not be afraid of choosing a partition key that has a large number of distinct value, right? I told you it doesn't matter how many logical partition you have, because you can have more than one logical partition mapped with the physical one, right? So now we also need to think about the throughput. This concept was from the storage. Now this concept that you're going to talk about is from throughput. If you can relate what we had discussed earlier, it was like single partition query and the cross partition query, which consumes RUs, request units, right? So we also need to spread the queries, that is evenly distribute request. You want to make sure that not only storage, hot partition, but the queries which are going to hit the database, those queries should also spread across the different partition. Single and cross partition queries concept that we discussed. So if you remember, we discussed the request unit evenly divided across all the partition. That means we not only need to spread data across partition, but spread in such a way that our queries evenly distribute across all the partitions, and to determine the best partition key for read heavy workload. And yes, do not forget the limits that we discussed when we were talking about the composite key. There is a restriction. Each document shouldn't be more than 2 megabytes, and each logical partition shouldn't be more than 20 gigs. If that is what's going to happen, then you're going to come up with the composite key. So after combining all the concepts On the behalf of storage, we got hot partitioning concept. On the behalf of throughput, we got a single and cross partition query, and still restrictions need to keep in mind, and that makes the composite key if required, of course. And that's how you need to choose your partition key, which will help you make the best use of your Cosmos DB or your application. So this is all about the partitioning, partition key, and all the concepts related to the partition key. Now, we'll meet in next video. Until then, take care and goodbye. Bye-bye.